So I was kind of just brainstorming some ideas about what I want to discuss on my podcast, this thing that you're listening to right now, and I kind of meandered my way through to cable management. So yeah, buckle up. But anyway, hello and welcome back to The Lion's Den. I'm your host Matt, as always, and yes, I am genuinely serious. We're talking about cable management today. But do not worry, it's not just going to be about the ins and outs of cable management. There will be some of that, but I will be discussing kind of some tangentially related concepts and topics. So, using the big words today, baby, let's go. So, I suppose I was thinking about cable management because recently I've been doing it quite a bit in the office. The past week and a little bit, we've all been kind of shuffled around a lot and been put in different places that we're not normally sat at in terms of like desk areas. So, a lot of places just need kind of modifying to fit my own personal needs, which generally requires some cable management as well. And one thing that really bugs me is that a lot of the setups are meant to be functional, not aesthetic, and that bugs me because you just sit down and then there's just this like rat's nest of cables all over the desk, and to me personally, it's kind of a mental state thing that I'll get onto later. A clean workspace is a better clean mental state, so it's better for work, in my opinion. And what I've been doing currently is, because we're kind of hot desking a little bit, I would kind of go to the desk that I'm sat at for that day, start working, and then probably about lunchtime, when I've got a bit of free time, I would just sit and reorganize the cables on the desk. Most of it was just kind of tucking cables either down the back of the desk or in the cable management holes, or using even the cable management straps on the back of the monitors. Sometimes it would require like ripping everything out and repositioning everything, because oftentimes they're set up in really stupid ways. On one desk that I went to literally had an extension lead, like a power strip on the desk, which I understood why, but it was just in the middle of the desk in front of the keyboard, and there were cables all around everywhere, and the cable connected to the laptop was just kind of snaking everywhere. It was not pretty, but it looked a lot better by the time I'd finished with it. So that's one thing. And I just like having a nice tidy workspace, or at least a workspace that looks a little bit more organized, because then it helps you be kind of organized and not distracted by the mess, especially when you're trying to move your mouse. If there's a bunch of cables that your mouse is then bumping into, that's not fun, that's not helpful. So sometimes as well, it helps to kind of fix the connections. Often I'll find, okay, so for context, we have docking stations at work where it's a USB-C hub, and it has all of the connections in the back, and we just plug our laptop in by one cable, and that gives us like a mouse, a keyboard, some dual monitors. It's great. Really love this stuff. Oftentimes the monitor cables will be the wrong way around, so the monitor on the left is plugged into the rightmost port on the dock, and the right one is plugged into the leftmost port, and it's like, why have you done this? So oftentimes I'm just unplugging things and swapping them around so that they make a bit more sense logically on the desk, but that's just me. That does lead on to the concept of aesthetics. I hate it when you've got cables that are like looping over each other and squirming around one another, and situations like that where the cables are in the wrong position so they overlap in weird ways. Having either invisible cables or intentionally designed cables is really nice. So like my home setup, either I go for clean so that it looks minimal, or I just try and hide cables as best as I can. So currently what I've got is all of the cables that go to my monitor, and there are quite a few. They all bunch into a single like conduit, a style cable essentially. They're all bunched together into one streamed mass. And yes, I can see it, but it's nice. It looks pleasing because it's a single cable mass rather than like a bunch of them at different points. And the key cables on my desk for like my keyboard and my mouse, they go straight back and down off the end of the desk, which also looks really nice. That's a good way of doing it, is if you just have straight clean runs rather than stuff that kind of snakes all over the place. My TV, for example, they've designed it so that all of the cables are on the far extremes of the TV, and then you can run them down along the legs, and they give you clips in the box to run your cables through, which is really nice. So my TV looks honestly quite clean. There's nothing there that you can particularly see, so I like it. And my switch and everything that I've plugged into my TV, I've hidden all of the cables behind other things. So for example, the cables that come out of the dock run behind and between some folders, so you can't actually see the cables at all, which is really nice. I love it when you can do that. That aesthetic is just kind of pleasing, It's just nice to have it look visually interesting or visually clean, because it just brings a sense of peace to me personally. I don't know if other people would definitely agree. Yeah, like my biggest problem is underneath the desk is absolutely horrible, and I can't fix it because the desk is so heavy that I can't really pull the desk out to then mess with the cables and neaten them up, maybe shorten them and whatnot, because I then wouldn't get the desk back once it's all in place. That's the one sad part, but other than that, pretty good. I think the funny thing as well for me is I went to do some just general cleaning of my room the other day because I realized that with work and everything I'd let it slip, and my room was not the nicest. It was quite dusty. There was some dead little tiny bugs that had blown in from having the window open and everything, so that was also great, just having a nice clean, clear all of the surfaces. I'd had a lot of stuff built up that I just dumped because I didn't have time to figure out where to put them. So now all of that's gone and it's either been thrown out or put in a different place, in a drawer or something. I've made surfaces cleaner and better organized than they used to be, which is also really nice. Like, for example, my desk as well. I used to have my tablet monitor off to the side, straight on the desk, with a bunch of room in front of it. And the idea was that it was there and it was accessible. I would pull it out, I could draw on it and whatnot, and then push it back and be fine. I decided since then to move it to use the monitor riser that I've got, and I put it on top of there instead. One, that means I now can actually use the two monitors more efficiently as just a dual monitor setup, but also it looks nicer on the desk, it frees up more desk space, and it's possibly more practical. Yeah, every time I want to draw, I have to pick it up off and bring it further forwards, but it means it's a much more intentional move, and also it's directly in front of me even when I'm sat at the computer doing other stuff, so it kind of encourages me to use it more, I think. So that's nice. And you know, just a clean workspace is good. Like, not having dust on the desk is really nice. So I think I kind of enjoy room cleaning to some extent. I think it's nice to go around and make sure everything's in its proper place and get rid of dust and vacuum and whatnot. I mean, vacuuming just instantly transforms a room, I think. Especially when you don't realize that there's so many bits on the floor that were there that then are not there from vacuuming. I'm just explaining the concept of vacuuming. Good one. I think the problem is that barrier to starting. You know, you don't want to really be bothered. You don't want to have to put in the effort and the energy to do it, because yeah, it is kind of tiring and it does take a bit of energy to clean a room, especially when it's the middle of summer and running a vacuum kicks out a bunch of heat that you don't really want. But I think it's the idea that once you start, it's so much easier. Once you've actually picked up and started dusting things or moving stuff out the way, it just kind of snowballs, and eventually you're just off and it's like half an hour later and you've cleaned your whole room, which is great because it means you don't have to worry about it for like another couple weeks or something. So I think that's the same concept for me with like having a shower. Every time I come home from the gym, especially if I go into the gym in the evening, I'm sat there like, oh, I don't want to do anything, but I'm like, oh, but I'm gross and I need a shower. Maybe I'll sit there for 5-10 minutes browsing Twitter before eventually I decide to get up and actually go and get a shower, and then it's fine, it's great. And oftentimes that kicks me back into, right, you've got 45 minutes to an hour left of your evening, actually do something rather than sitting and wasting your time. So I think to kind of cap this all off, the cable management thing potentially comes a little bit under OCD, or I think there's another one that's called OCPD, personality disorder. I don't have it really, as far as I'm aware. It's just kind of little things that niggle at me that I do because it doesn't really affect anyone in particular. The cable management being one of them. It really bugs me when I see a really messy like tangle of cables at work, and it doesn't hurt anyone if I go over and fix the cable situation. It just makes it better for me, and personally I think it makes it better for them even if they don't really notice it. Another big thing for me as well is I see switches that have nothing plugged into them. I have to turn them off. I don't know why. It's just I don't understand why people will plug something in, leave the switch on, and not turn it off when they then unplug the thing that they've plugged in. Basically, any socket that doesn't have something plugged into it but is turned on, I will turn off, regardless of whether it's my sockets elsewhere in the house, literal sockets in buildings that I'm just passing through. I will do it, assuming I can get to it easily enough. There's also other small things like the alignment of stuff. I think the office we were in last week had blinds on the windows, and it was a really weird shaped window. It was like triangular shaped, and they got custom fitted blinds where the bottoms were cut at an angle so that it would fit in with the angle of the window. But for some reason, somebody had rotated it so that they were the complete wrong way. And the first thing I did when I walked in was I grabbed the rotation sort of string and just turned it the correct way around. Had to do it. I could have gone the whole day not cared. But no, that was the first thing on my mind when I saw that in the office. And yeah, I did that because it falls under that thing of it doesn't affect anyone particularly, but it affects me, and it's a small thing that I can fix, and it wouldn't be a problem, or people wouldn't be upset if I do it, so I do it. Yeah. Let me know if you do any weird things like that. I don't suppose they're that weird, to be honest, but I don't know. People kind of go, oh, sure, yeah, okay, that's fine, whatever. But anyway, I hope you've all enjoyed listening to this man ramble once again, and I'll see you all next week. Bye!